Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I am so glad that you could keep our appointment. Well, tonight I'm excited and honored to introduce to some and present to others tonight's guest. A lot of you are familiar with his works. I'm talking about author, educator Jahlael Bey. He joins me for a candid conversation regarding forbidden civics, law, adverse possessions, and some other topics of interest that we should know. Now, Jahlael Bey is a best-selling author and educator specializing in civics, law, and history. As the author of Land of the Free, Home of the Slave, a multiple-time Amazon bestseller, along with Forbidden Civics, Not Born in Sin, SIN/SSN, and How Police Get Away with Murder. He has made a significant impact in teaching the principles of adverse possession, a strategy he personally used to claim a $250,000 home. Rooted in the values of Proverbs, which he was raised on, Jahlael empowers others to unlock their potential and reclaim their lives by adhering to foundational laws and principles. Known for his ability to break down complex legal concepts, he encourages individuals to return to the law as instructed by Allah, sparking inspiration and possibility in all who follow his teachings. Now, I am so excited. I don't want to waste a lot of time because I know you all are ready to hear what this brother has to say before he comes on. But I want you to press a like and I want you to press share because folks are going to need to know and hear what it is that Brother Jahlael Bey has to say. So come on now, get the likes up, share, and let's get ready to get some awesome information and dialogue. I want to introduce to some and present to others, none other than tonight's guest, Brother Jahlael Bey.
Peace, peace.
Welcome. I forgot to tell you, when the music is still running, and you have to kind of like rock and do
yeah,
like
I was already rocking.
Okay, good. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. First, I want to thank you for having me on your platform. Like I told you earlier.
Let's give it a minute. Let the music go
Okay.
so we can hear you. Okay. All right. Again, welcome. Excited. Last week probably was not the time, for whatever, the universe and Allah knows best, knows all things. So, tonight we are together to talk about, the awesome work that you have embarked upon and what you're sharing with the world. And I applaud you. And I applaud you for acknowledging my friend, my brother, Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey in the dedication of your book, Land of the Free, Home of the Slave. So you said something that was key, that about, I think you said like 97% of the people now who know,
Moor,
quote unquote, who know about their their Moorish heritage and the things that we've learned about Moorish science and so forth. We owe that to teachings of Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. Now, some have accused him of being redundant, but it's that redundancy that over the 40 plus years has taken on more. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, what he said, growing, because every year, even every time I think we do a broadcast on the first and third Friday, somebody new. I get phone calls from somebody that says, I'm just finding out about this. I'm just, and these are people who are not children, not young people necessarily. Sometimes they are, but older men and women will call and say, I'm just finding out about this. I want to know more. So what if he stopped? What if he was talking about it for 2, 3, maybe 10 years and just said, all right.
Exactly.
Would you have known? You may have gotten it eventually.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the army, they have different sections. Well, I'll say the military, like they have a recruiter here, different ranks and stuff like that. For me, Taj is more like a recruiter because you need the recruiter to, get bodies in there. And so,
Absolutely.
like, I sort of see him as like sort of like a recruiter, and his redundancy, because it's needed. And like you said, more and more people are waking up every day, and so
Every
we need somebody, especially somebody of his stature and his demeanor, to just stay consistent, because it takes a lot to do this work with all the negative criticism that comes along with it, that's unwarranted for the most part. And like, I get attacked, everybody who's trying to uplift fallen man, it gets attacked for whatever reason. So Taj, he's my motivation, as far as like, whenever, I'm sure you have those days where you just like, I'm through with these people. And so, and so, like, and like, I think whenever I'm feeling like that, it's like, Taj been doing this longer than I've been alive. So I can't just say like I'm done with it. And so, like he said, he got alligator skin. And so for me, that's kind of what I try to, mimic and duplicate myself.
And like I said when we were talking off camera, the fact of the that he's never said, he is the be all end all with regards to the knowledge. And what he's been trying and continues to do is to pour into men and women, sisters like your, sisters and brothers like yourself, to get enough knowledge to get up and go forward, which is something that you have done.
Mhm.
And I commend you, because I'm working on the book now. It's not easy. And then with the level of technical expertise that has to go, you can't just throw anything in here. You just can't say, well, I think,
Mhm.
you can put a little bit of your experience or opinion, but at the end of the day, folks want facts.
Yeah, and you got to
They
source
they want to
everything.
they want, as they call it, receipts. They want to know
Exactly.
how you know what you know, because if they trust in what you put out, most of the times, because people are looking for answers, searching for remedy for various and sundry situations. And if it's, or they say, oh, everybody's going, are you the one?
Mhm.
Is he the one? Is she the one? And that's the I think the situation that we find ourselves in today. People are searching for answers, but not a lot of people have the wherewithal to study and comprehend what they, like Rand Sheik says, they can't read. And he's not
Mhm.
saying that folks don't see that it says every alien should become a citizen. It's not that. If you don't read it with comprehension and
Right.
understanding, then it has no value to you in the end. You just read words, you know what I mean? And so when you're able to take your research and put it into a form where folks can digest it and use it as a guidebook, you know,
Mhm.
because that's why I even recommend other books too, because if I see that there's something of value, I don't even care, if they're modern Europeans writing, if it's true and it's factual, and it it's can prove it and it will help, then who cares? Because we know
Yeah.
all that's divisiveness anyway. And before I go any much further, I got a call yesterday, maybe to end today. I know I got it today and maybe a couple days ago, from a lady, and I may be wrong, but she sound like maybe a modern European. And
Mhm.
she told me that someone by the name of she saw us on somebody's website, and I said, I don't know who you're talking about. And she kept saying, she said you had a red shirt on. She says, I couldn't really understand what you were saying, but I want to know what's going on, because Mike, I think the guy's name is Mike Penny or Mike somebody, his Truth Seekers or something they call it.
Mhm.
And he apparently not one of us as far as
Yeah.
ethnicity, but is taking the information that we're presenting and sounding an alarm that folks need to get ready. And she says, well, what is it I need to get ready for? I said, ma'am, I don't know what it is you saw or what you heard, because
Yeah.
I don't know what clip he put on his page. But the,
Mhm.
the point I'm trying to make is people are looking for
Yeah.
answers. People are looking for, how can I get out of the situation? How can I save my home? How can I get my loved one out of, policy enforcer, they got them in the,
Yeah.
the prison industrial camp and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Folks are folks want to know. And so I thank you. So the first book you wrote was what? Which one was it?
Land of the Free, Home and Slave. But before I go, I still got to give my acknowledgments to you and thank you for allowing me on your platform because you cut me off
Oh,
early with the music.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm
no,
sorry.
like I told you earlier, this is a full circle moment for me. I started watching House of Reawakening Minds in 2016, 2017, and so ever since then, been diligently watching. Like I would fall asleep, listening to Taj, and like I put it in my book, like I'll let my subconscious, just get to teaching and stuff like that. And so again, thank you so much for allowing me on your platform, and it's great to be here.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. I appreciate that. Sometimes I'm hesitant because I'm like, they're not going to want to come on this little platform. And that's what I thought until Risa Islam came on and he said, "Oh, I know about you." And that was
Mm-hmm.
like, really? So,
Yeah.
but I appreciate and respect your work. I mean, I put you right
Mm-hmm.
up there with those erudite scholars. So, a lot of people have a lot of mouth. They run their mouths, but they have nothing. They don't have stuff to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing that they wrote. They might be
Yeah.
pointing out, showing everybody else's stuff, and I do too, but I got a book coming out. So I do have a book, but it's poetry. But
Yeah.
now I'm having a
And,
book.
and to that point, like what scholars do, like if you look in the scholarly realm, I would say scholarly realm, if they have beef with each other, somebody write a book and then somebody write a book to be like, okay, this is why this person was wrong, and they present the facts to the contrary. That's how it's supposed to be done, rather than just getting on YouTube making videos about somebody and stuff like that. You need to prove, you need to settle everything the right way, make literature. So like one of my thing is I get from Noble Drew Ali, one of my favorite quotes is, in order to change the people, you must change their literature. And so that's what I every time I write a book, that's what I think about. And so this I never thought I would be an author, until I came into this knowledge and stuff like that. One of my favorite books by Taj is How to Study, because in reading that book, you really don't know how much you don't know, and you don't know that you're not really studying until you read some literature that's like, okay, you need to do this and stuff like that. And he breaks down like how we don't know how to read and things like that. And so that's one of the first books that I got, and I read that over and over, and so it helped me to get into the habit of studying better, studying more effectively, and it helped me to retain the information better by implementing the things he teaches in that book.
Right. And I see you have a collection behind you of
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know whether those are law books or encyclopedias
Yeah.
or
So a quick story about that. So my mother-in-law, right, she saw on, how the Facebook marketplace have a whole bunch of everything. And so she saw a lawyer's office was going out of business. They were liquidating, and so they were giving away all their books. And so she sent it to my wife, and so she obviously sent it to me. I hurried up and like messaged that lady, like, when can I pick these up? And she gave me a date. It was the next day, and I just showed up. And so these books, I'll get a close up. It's Corpus Juris Secundum.
okay.
So it's a whole encyclopedia set. And so if you go to law library, you're going to see these ones and American Jurisprudence. So these are the leading encyclopedia sets worldwide, I would say. Well, especially nationwide. But so this set alone is around $70K, this entire set. And so I got that for free. And so that's one of the things that is like, it's a humble brag, but it's like, this is part of our culture. We need to have libraries in our homes. And so this is like my pride and joy right here.
Awesome. The brother said we were supposed to have those. And so
Hmm.
we're glad that you did, because you've put, and I'm sure putting them to good use.
Yeah.
And we will all be richer for it because of your study and your diligence.
Yeah.
We always need
Well,
somebody to break that stuff down for us. So what the mama bird goes and gets the food, she chews it up first, and in
hmm.
some cases animals will chew, and then they regurgitate it so it's digestible. And
Yeah.
some of that stuff is too heavy for the average individual to be able to just digest it and take it in. So when somebody like yourself can go into it, dive into it, and then bring it back out in a palatable way, it just, it's we applaud you. We applaud
Yeah.
you because we got yeah. But you said also in the dedication that when you first started writing Land of the Free, Home of the Slave, you were
Hmm.
teaching your wife, your consort, how
Hmm.
about law, about civics, or
Yeah, about civics.
tell us about that. What, how
So,
that
like, this is another thing. Uh, I remember, like, like when we were together and stuff like that. Like, I was so heavy into, like I tell you, I was so heavy into the House of Reawakening Minds and stuff like that. I would have Taj videos on the TV and stuff like that, just playing as background noise while I'm cooking and stuff like that. And so over time, she would hear all this stuff, and she started asking me questions, and more. She's like, "Oh, this stuff is real interesting." It's like, and Taj has a way of putting things, and he's humorous with it, and so we're laughing and stuff like that. And so over time, the more she started asking questions, I would write them down. If I didn't know the answer, I would go look it up, and present it to her. And so over time, and actually, I asked her, she still had the little book that I wrote for her, because I made it into a little booklet, and she has it. But this thing's all beat up now. But this is what it originally looks like, right? It's all beat up.
okay.
And so this was the original title, quote unquote, because I was just I was a starting point for me to teach her was learning about state citizenship versus federal citizenship, and the 14th Amendment and stuff like that. And so I would find things to, and a lot of this, is still in the book, like verbatim. And so I would just find things for her and definitions and stuff like that, and I would just keep compiling it until I made that booklet. And then over time, I think I was talking to my brother Steven, and I just told him, like, I'm just going to drop a book. And so, like, I've got to, I came up with the title, just because it's a play on words, land of the free, home of the brave type thing.
Mhm.
And so, knowing, everything about the 14th Amendment, because a lot of my books are centered, and a lot of civics is centered around the 14th Amendment. And so that's kind of like what made me think about the title, because we're in corporate slavery today, or economic slavery, whatever you want to call it. And so that made me think of the title of the book. And so that's really how the book came about.
And so, what was, or what is, even because I'm sure it's ongoing. What is your goal for the reader who really gets into this? Because basically, like you said, you were giving instruction for your wife, and if you were trying to get her to a level of competency, I would assume she already had an
Yeah.
interest, but you were bringing
Hmm.
her up to date with, not just hearing the videos of Taj, but now this is what he's
Yeah.
talking about. So
Hmm.
what would the reader gain if they were to, or if they are to really read and study this word, any of your
Hmm.
work?
So I think the first thing they would gain is, I think I begin the book by teaching people how to read law, because every discipline has its own set of language that they have to learn. So whether you're a mechanic, you have to learn terminology about mechanics and stuff like that, and so on and so on. And so what the reader could, like, learn from this book is how we're in the position we are in today, as far as economically and politically. Because with the breakdown of all these definitions and the United States codes, compiling it with history and the timeline of when things happen, like, you will begin to see, just by your own self and studying the definitions, like, you can't, don't take my word for it, like, the definition will prove it to you itself. And so these things are like what we were held back from. And so putting this stuff in a book, the reader should be able to, my aim is for the reader to be able to start questioning things themselves. And so I guess that's the answer to that question.
And I'm assuming, because like I said, I've learned this when I first got into more science. It was, I give honor to my sister, and she rests in peace. Um, Sister Zodiacus L. Some folks have seen her on a
Oh.
video teaching,
Hmm.
and I would get like, how can I get in touch with her? And I'm thinking in the spirit realm, because sister transitioned around 2012, but
Yeah.
she was responsible for my meeting Grand Sheik Tashriq Bey around the time when I had just ended my ministry, that I had as a pastor, it had ended for me, and
Yeah.
I was sitting in an almost empty building, and she showed up. She didn't just show up. I went to a class. Somebody invited me to a class at a community center, and it was a more science class. I didn't know anything about it, so I sat there in incognito because I wasn't going to let
Yeah.
them know that I was a pastor,
Pastor. Yeah.
and I was just sitting there. And then somehow she found out, and at that point, like I said, it was almost an empty building. But one Sunday she showed up and she said, "I came to help you. I was sent to help you." And I was thinking, help me do what? This is Sister Zodiacus. So she ended up, like I said, eventually in taking me to Philly. Well, I traveled to Philly and to a class that Grand Sheik was doing on Saturdays. And that's where I met him in like September of that year, 2011. And I said, "Oh, this is good stuff. Can you come to my building and teach this?" And I didn't know who was going to come, but she knew people because, she was instructing. And so he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I'll come." And so he came in October of 2011 and has never left,
Yeah.
And
That's
so
awesome.
it was that connection. And she, like I said, the next year she transitioned. So she did come to help me because it was she that connected me with Grand Sheik. And
Yeah.
and even though things didn't go as smoothly as I would have loved for in the in between she and I, because stuff happens, but we were able, when she did transition, to honor her. We had her memorial service at the House of Reawakening Minds, and people came
Yeah.
from everywhere. I didn't even know the people. Like I said, I was new to this. I'm just having somebody come, and for a couple of years or more, people were coming, and I'm hearing about foreclosures or taking properties, because we're going to talk about adverse possession. And they were like, "Yeah, well, we have a right to take the property." And just, I didn't know exactly what they were talking
Yeah.
about. But the irony of it was, at the time I was working in the real estate and housing, for my municipality. And eventually, even before it was all over, I became the director of the department. So I had these people coming talking about taking properties, and you could just take it.
Yeah.
Then we'd had even the sister that made national history, national news, Jahlael Bey, I think her name is.
That's what I was going to bring up.
That what she
That's
came,
yeah.
she came to the House of Reawakening Minds from wherever it was, Tennessee. She came, and she was already involved in whatever it was she was doing. And I don't know what she was looking for about, but I never ever heard her told, "Go just take that mansion and take that, take the car and run over the." No, none of that. She was just coming to kind of listen, I guess, in person, but she was already in process doing. A lot of folks come once they're already in the midst of doing something that's not working the way
Yeah.
they think it should go. And that, so now, like I said, they're looking for solutions, but she was
Yeah.
already deep in the thick of whatever she was doing at the
Too
time.
late to turn
So
back.
yeah. So it just, it was just, we hear different things. The sister that got was unalived in that I forgot exactly where it was, but the policy enforcers shot her in her home back then, and she had a son there at the time. Folks were saying, "Oh, Tashriq Bey, that's his fault," because he was the leading voice out there. People do what people think is. They hear pieces of things. They get some hear something, and they do what they do, but they do it a lot of times very ill equipped and not completely informed about
Exactly.
what they should and should not, can and cannot do. Because I know you've written a book about how the policy enforcers get away with M.
Yeah.
So but so we've experienced things, and we've heard the House of Reawakening Minds is messing people up, and no, it's folks out there messing people up. But we're just giving information. The only thing we do have that actually supports our house is the USB drive. I don't know if you ever got a USB drive, but that USB drive is chock full of 700 plus documents, and then I've been adding to it. I've got survival information on there, and I've got
Mm-hmm.
stuff like for times like right that we're in right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned it Friday, and I'm like, we have almost 50 orders since Friday. I took 47 flash drives to the post office today, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful because we don't get support. We're not
Mm-hmm.
monetized and all that, but we're not doing it for that. But there's still things that have to be done and maintained.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you took that information, and
Mm-hmm.
you ate the meat, and I'm pretty sure you had some bones to spit out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the process.
So we're talking about adverse possession, y'all. So let's go back to the Akbar Bey story. That was the first one I heard, right? And so I learned a lot from that because it taught me what not to do. And, not to talk bad about anybody because, in principle, they're right. We know this is our land, blah, blah, blah. But there's a way to go about everything. And my thing with the adverse possession stuff, and there's a lot of different stories like hers too. And so my thing is, why would people go after mansions first? And that's bringing unnecessary attention to yourself. Why would you go after a mansion? And, just common sense stuff like, okay, let's say you did claim this mansion and stuff like that, right? Could you keep up with the property taxes? Because that's going to be high property tax. And so it's just there's a lot of stuff that I learned about that. And so, in 2019, it helped me to do what I did because so after seeing that story, reading about adverse possession, I got in the law library. And so I wanted to read more about adverse possession because I was intrigued about it because, we all hear this is our land. We can go claim houses and stuff like that. It sounds very juicy. Like that's a good title. It's a good headline right there. But nothing's ever what it seems. So so I went and did the research about it. And so yes, in principle, you can go, occupy a property. And if you meet all the requirements and you stay there for the certain period of time that the state statute says you have to be there for, you can get title to that property over time. But the thing is, in doing so, you want to make sure you're not encroaching on somebody's what I call active equitable interest. And that simply means that somebody is already in the property, somebody's about to sell the property, is going through probate. You don't want to touch those. And like I talked to you last week, with the tax lien stuff like that, what I teach people is like the best way you can find abandoned property online is to look at what's it called? Delinquent tax properties, houses that have delinquent taxes. Because like over here in Tulsa, right, you have 3 years that you could be delinquent, and then they're going to sell your property on the 4th year. And so I find a lot of properties just by finding delinquent tax properties, homes like that, because they're going to be sold anyways. And so a lot of them, at the tax auction, a lot of them do get redeemed before it's sold. That's why I always tell people you got to go look at these properties before you make a move. Like you got to do your due diligence. You got to check to see if the water's on, if there's any running electricity and stuff like that. I always tell people you got to be approachable. Go talk to the neighbors and get a story on the house. Don't be looking scary or skeptical or somebody they can't trust. Introduce yourself, present yourself, accordingly. So that way they're not suspicious of you. And so in doing all this stuff like that, I kind of got off track in my mind. But you want to do your due diligence. You want to make sure that house is abandoned. And so once you find out that it's abandoned, that's when you start putting your intent on record. And that's very important because there's a thin line between adverse possession and squatting. One is all about your intent. If you don't put your intent on the record, it's going to be presumed that you're squatting. And the media does a good job at, distorting the language and making everything. They only show squatting. They don't show adverse possession. They try to say adverse possession is squatters' rights, but that's a colloquial term. And if you look up the legal definition of squatter in the Black's Law 4th edition, it will tell you bluntly that squatting is not adverse possession. I wish I had the PDF version so I can pull it up. But you know, for the listeners out there, go look up the definition of squatter or squatting in the Black's Law Fourth Edition, and on there it will give you the Conway versus Shuck. It will give you the case citation and everything, and it'll let you know that adverse possession isn't squatting. And so what I tell people, that's the main thing you have to do is get your intent on record. I tell people, you file it, you file your affidavit or your notice to claim at the county assessors or the county clerk's office. It's the county clerk's office, the county recorder in some other territories, wherever you're at, the person who's in charge of the deeds. That's where you want to record it. So you do that. And then I like to, go even further to make sure, like, okay, I'm putting it on public record. I go through a legal newspaper because, that's when you do something through the legal newspaper, you get what's called an affidavit of publication. And so now there's a notarized, a notary there who's attesting that you put this thing in the mail and they're going to run it for however long you want to run it. And so that's legal proof of intent. So now let's say something were to happen and you end up in court somehow, and they're going to presume that you're squatting. But now your defense is, well, no, I wasn't squatting. I was doing adverse possession. I put my intent on record beforehand, and I let everyone know. I sent the notices out to the legal owner on record to let them know what I'm doing, and I'm doing it by the law. And like in my publication, I even put the Oklahoma laws pertaining to adverse possession, and then I put case law with it, and I ran that in the newspaper. And so it's really simple if you follow directions and do it the right way and not be greedy. Don't get ahead of yourself. And go ahead, because I thought you was about to say something.
What I was going to say is that I think a lot of folks have are under the impression that when you possess a property, when you take a property, so to speak, that you have nothing, because you said filing with the county recorder of deeds and your intent or whatever, and they kind of see themselves as totally taking themselves out of the jurisdiction of any government body, the state, the city, the county. And so what you're saying is that you do put the property back or keep the property on the tax rolls. If I'm just hearing you understand.
Yeah. So let me explain that. So, if you're going, I call it the Moor's route, right? The way I teach it statutorily. So my thing is do one thing at a time. So let's say, I was talking about this the other day, actually. So if you claim a property successfully, right? Now you're living rent and mortgage free for however long. So for me, I've been living rent and mortgage free for 5 years for doing this process. That frees up time and gets that financial burden off of your back. So now you have more time to study. And so now you go after the property tax stuff. There's a way to get your property off the property tax rolls. Other people have done it. I'm learning it right now because that's my next step. And so do things one at a time, do it in a way that it's not going to bring attention to you to where you seem like, okay, red flags here. Okay. So that's why I teach it by the book. And that's why I said, whenever I teach this stuff, I tell people where to go look for the sources. I'd say corpus juris secundum in American jurisprudence. If you go to law library, there's another set. This is what the lawyers use. It's called American Jurisprudence Practice and Pleading Forms. You can get the forms over there. I got all of them. And, I put it in my little adverse possession folder that I keep with me. Because in my ebook that I sell, I tell people exactly what I did. Like I made this folder that I still have to today. Like when I was studying 2016 and 2019, I put all this information in there. And there's another national story of Kenneth Robinson, I believe his name was. He's in Texas. And so he did adverse possession. And I think the headline was, man, claims house for $16 or something like that. And so with his situation, what I learned from there, because, if you listen correctly, you will hear things. So in there, the little news reporter lady said that the police couldn't do anything because it's a civil matter. And so even when neighbors are calling police and stuff like that, if you know what's the difference between civil and criminal is, you understand that the police have no jurisdiction in civil matters. So now it's an issue between two living people. And the principle behind adverse possession is you know, if somebody sits on their rights for, let's say in Oklahoma it's 15 years, somebody sits on their rights for 15 years and I'm claiming the property for 15 years, well, I have every right to go file quiet title because, I met all the statutory requirements. And so that's doing things by the book. And this is why I specifically tell people to go out to specific abandoned property, because just because somebody's not living there or something like that, you just can't presume that it's abandoned. You have to have all the facts about it.
Okay, so since people could can and do lose their properties for not paying the taxes, so to speak, and somebody can go and claim that property, does that work in the case of an owner? Say there's a Moor with a property that they're not paying the taxes. Can they do an adverse claim on their own property to take it? Have you ever gotten that question? Because there's a lot of folks that are trying
I get a question like, can I do adverse possession on my own property? No, you can't do it on your own property because it has to be adverse against someone. Adverse and hostile. Hostile simply means that it's contrary to somebody else's claim. So that's the answer. That's a quick and simple answer behind that.
No.
Because this is why it's pertinent that people understand and read case law and the concepts that pertains to adverse possession. Because when you do your Google search, it's going to give you the overview information, but like once you get into the law library, it's going to break all this stuff down. And like for me, one of the things that that I'm building towards, like I see how this is a market. This is an actual legitimate real estate market that's fairly untapped. And so if you do it the right way, you can build a portfolio, which I am doing live time. Like last week, I was live at the house that I'm adverse possessing for my parents. And so like I'm showing people literally live time, step by step, how this is done.
I'm just gonna put this up there. She says, I thought if you proclaim your nationality as Moors, we heirs, and it's on our land from our ancestors and we are tax exempt.
Okay, so yeah, like that's true, but who's enforcing all this stuff? That's what it comes down to. Like we're not organized enough to make these claims and stuff like that. This is why Taj says all the time that he feels no need to talk about all this other stuff if we're still struggling with the basics. So what's the point? And like on principle and everything, I always tell people I agree with you, but it's like at the end of the day, let's be real. If somebody's get locked up, the policy enforcers come and lock you up over this issue, who's going to come and get you out? You can't just, I'm a Moor and this, that, and that. There's a whole bunch of case law where people bringing up these claims, I won't say claims, bringing up the nationality issue. And again, I'm not trying to side with the so-called judges and stuff like that. But if we're being real, the evidence is there. And so there's a certain way. This is why it's more important for us to come together, because the more of us that's, together, the harder it is for other people to come in and, mess with us and say we can't do something on our own land.
That's true. Well, to that point, I got a text on Friday, and I don't think you'll have an issue with me sharing this. I won't say the brother's name, but it says this brother, who's an L, was released today under consular jurisdiction. So we do have remedy if we would enforce the Constitution. And then I got a call today to say that someone successfully retained their property that was being foreclosed upon, and it was I guess they proclaimed that it was they had no jurisdiction, and because they went through they had the consular court, and they were able to keep their property. So there apparently are methods or ways to get around those things, or to be able
get through it. I won't say get around, get through it.
Okay, get through it. Because brother Teach says that when it comes to taxes, he said we're not evading taxes, but but you can avoid taxes. So it's a difference between evading and avoiding. And avoiding
Hmm.
means you know the law, and you use the law to not deal with the taxes. And just to put a claim in for Friday night, both these brothers will be at House of Reawakening in Minds
That's cool.
on
Yeah.
Friday. And so, if folks want to know, they need to show
Hmm.
up at here in Wilmington,
Yeah.
and we.
And I do want to clarify, like, again, like, as far as being the Moor and stuff like that, I 100% agree with the fact that we're indigenous and stuff like that. And like you said, there are people who are, getting remedy and stuff like that. I'm talking about just overall. There's just not enough of us that are unified enough to where this stuff can be normal. Like people, getting remedy through counselors is normal.
Mhm.
We're just not there yet, and that's the reality of the situation. And so this is why, like, I do things by the book, and it's like, if me doing it by the book doesn't mean that I'm submitting jurisdictions to somebody, okay? Because if you going back to Fraley versus Minger, that's adverse possession is an ancient concept. So it existed way before any of us were alive. It existed way before the United States was a thought. It existed before Jesus. And so this is an ancient concept of law that's been passed down through millennia. And so
Mhm.
my thing is, like, me doing adverse possession by the book doesn't mean that I'm submitting to anybody's jurisdiction, so to speak. So I just wanted to
Right.
clarify
You
that,
you
because
did
I know
say,
how some people think.
yeah, because some folks are saying we're Moors and we're not supposed to pay taxes and so forth. But
Yeah,
I get your point from a standpoint of living or dwelling in a property for XY, say 10 years, whatever you're waiting out the period of whatever the period is for that jurisdiction, and not paying the note, and not yeah, you're gonna have to pay the water bill and the electric and all that stuff,
yeah.
but that's all you're paying. And then you do what you're saying is, but you're studying on how to now um negate the taxation. And
Hmm.
so it's no sense in you trying to do put the cart before the horse. If you don't
Yeah,
know what to do yet, just be happy that you've got the property and you're
yeah.
not paying a mortgage.
Because exactly, it's still a win in that sense, because most majority of the people, they have a 15 to 30-year mortgage, or they're paying rent, and we know rent prices just climbing up and up. And so, like, it's still a win there. Like, be happy with that, but don't be satisfied to the fact that you just stop. Keep going. This is why I said, it's, for me, adverse possession is just one step to where we ultimately want to be, because in doing so we learn how to do things about claims and how to put claims on record, because ultimately we need to get our land back, and that's going to come through what? Putting international claim. So this is, for me, it's like a little stepping stone. It still coincides with what we're trying to do as Moors, but it's just more on a neutral plane that anybody can do this.
Yeah, but like I said, but a lot of folks are you know under the impression that it once you get a property, then everything ceases. There's you don't pay for the water, you don't pay for the electric, you don't pay for
Yeah,
the taxes, and you're saying that can be, but you have to learn how to do how the process goes in order
exactly.
to do
Everything's
that
everything.
unmolested. Because
Exactly.
yeah,
That's the key right there. Everybody wants all the benefits unmolested, and it's like, it's not going to work like that all the time. You got to be ready to be tested. And so, if you don't want to be tested, I tell people bluntly, don't do it. Don't do this stuff if you don't want to be tested, because majority of people that I learned from, they all been to jail. you know, that's the best. I've been to jail. Literally everybody that I learned from, they all have the stories about going to jail. And so,
now did you
like,
go, none of my business why you went, but was it
mhm.
pertaining to your getting obtaining the property, or was it, I mean, if it
Oh,
wasn't.
no, 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 no.
Oh no, okay.
So I'll, as far as me dealing with the police pertaining to the property, there's neighbors who called me, but like I said earlier, I already knew what to expect. I even made my own little like, what I would say in this event type stuff, and so I still have everything in my folder. Like, I have all the receipts necessary. Like, this is what I teach. But so when neighbor kept calling police on me, right, and so eventually, I got rid of them, because they kept coming out, and it's like, okay, well, this is a civil matter. The first time, the first time the police was called on me, the first police that stepped up to me, he asked me if I was the owner of the house, and I was like, yeah, I am. He said, all right, well, this is a civil matter. I can't do anything. But there's there's a good cop and there's a bad cop routine. So the bad cop comes, with his little hoorah and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, let me talk to your sergeant, your lieutenant, whoever's in charge. And it's like, okay, cool. And so he comes out there. I'm explaining everything verbatim. I'm kind of nervous. There's like 7 policemen out there and stuff like that. I'm in a, kind of well off, I won't say well off, but, middle class neighborhood and stuff like that. And so, it's kind of intimidating from that standpoint. But, sergeant comes out there. I'm reading stuff off. He's trying to say like, well, adverse possession doesn't work like that. I was like, well, you tell me how it works then, since you know about it. I'm reading case law, and it's like, this is how can you say this is wrong? And he kind of he didn't shoot everybody. He shoot kind of 2 of them away, and then he like told everyone else, I'll handle it. And so that lets me know like he don't want me saying too much around too many people. And so whenever he did that, I got to talk to him, more man to man and stuff like that. And it wasn't as intimidating with just one person. And so, he ended up telling me, I'm going to leave right now, but if I see you again, I'm going to have to arrest you. He never showed back up. And so that's the thing. It's about intimidation and to try to scare you away from stuff. But if you stand on law, stand on principle, you just have to live with the results. I have another member. Well, not another member. I have a member of my private adverse possession group, right? She lives in Mississippi. She I want to say she's like some kind of nurse that makes a lot of money. She told me, she claimed a $1.2 million house, but, neighbors called the police on her, but, the sheriff ended up coming. And so she talked to she got the sheriff involved. And so the sheriff was called out there and stuff like that. And so she explained to him what she was doing. And the sheriff actually admitted to her, like, she has every right to do this. That's what the sheriff told her.
Right?
Yeah, because they're constitutional. And one last thing, but in Florida, I know if you search up adverse possession and sheriff or something like that, they're going to have PDFs of like, it's almost like in a handbook of what to do in adverse possession matters. And so, there's a whole bunch of different stuff out there from my research and helping people across this nation that I'm still learning different things about adverse possession just due to helping so many people. And so it just keeps, reinforcing that this is a legitimate thing, but, you have to fight the stigma of squatters' rights. I like to say in quotation, because that's a colloquial term. And that's what people hear about adverse possession. They automatically link it to squatters' rights when, yeah, there is a little overlap as far as like occupying somebody else's property. But like I said earlier, if you do it on the right property, you won't have to deal with any of the risks that are associated with it.
So what you're saying is the research has to be done beforehand as to the situation with the property, whether or not, anyone is actively, as you said, is there anyone in it? Because it could be on the tax rolls and it still could be occupied. Is that possible? I mean, so it could be up for tax lien sale, but the owners could still be in it, and they're just not able to.
Yeah, they're just not paid. Exactly.
They haven't paid or whatever. They haven't been able to do anything, and they're not going anywhere. So you don't want to.
Yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, you don't want to try to move somebody out of there where they're kind of they stuck there. They got their roots in. This is my house.
Exactly.
So you don't want to go and be like, the policy enforcers and root somebody out.
Exactly. That's just common sense and decency. Like, why would you try to, if you know for sure that somebody's living there, or like I said earlier, if somebody's, just waiting for the house to be refurbished or, renovated and stuff like that, don't do that. There's plenty of other property out there, and you'll be surprised. Like, the term driving for dollars, you'd be surprised how much property is actually abandoned when you just, start searching. Because once you get the information, and I say this all the time, it's like when you buy a certain car, you start seeing that car all over the place. And so it's like the opportunities start to present themselves once you have the knowledge, because now there's something you could potentially do with this abandoned property. Whereas, you drive around abandoned stuff all the time and not even notice it. But the moment that you have this knowledge and you know you can potentially do something with it, okay, well, this stuff you start to see that it's always been there. These opportunities are always around us, but we just have to have the knowledge to expand the possibilities of what we can do.
Okay. I see. I'm going to put this up because this is property tax. This is our for Friday instructor. Is it public debt? The U.S. government is pledged to pay the public debt. And here's 31 USC 3124. So again, y'all, be at the House of Reawakening Minds on Friday this
I'm
week.
gonna definitely tune into that one.
Well, no, you can't, because you got to be there for this one. This is
okay.
This is our in-person instructor.
Okay.
So y'all want to be here this Friday. I'm just saying. All right. So, but anyway, but you have, what I like though for you is that you are testing out your knowledge on yourself to validate, for the validity of whether, okay, this works, this doesn't work, because a lot of folks sell packages and sell, dreams and so forth for things that have been unproven, untested. They just they theorize it, but it has no basis in actual, practice. They have, so I think it's important that, somebody who has actually or is actually doing it and getting that success, that is important, because I'm tired of folks that are just, selling dreams to people, and they come out to be a nightmare. I don't know how many calls I get for people who have spent thousands of notes trying to get a remedy that, ended them in more hot water, or sometimes being, incarcerated or kidnapped because they were exercising what they thought were their rights, or what probably are their rights, but they were not honored, and I had a call that broke my heart about a month or so ago from a sister who said that not only did they come in like gangbusters and take their property in the early hours of the morning, but when they opened the door, I guess, or when they got in there, they had 3 dumpsters outside of their property, and they emptied everything they had into dumpsters and carted it away. They didn't even give them the opportunity to get a U-Haul or something. I mean, it's bad enough that you kicked them out. They were kicked out of their property, but then you took everything they own except what they had on their backs and just put it in dumpsters and took it away. To me, that's grand theft. I don't know about, and it was because what was it? The magistrate or whatever it was said, because I guess she didn't like them. She was like doing what she, once it's gone, what happens to them? They don't get prosecuted. I mean, there is a way. When I get calls like that, where people literally lose everything, and then they've also lost everything that's attached to their identity of who they are. They've had paperwork and all of their studies and all their stuff trashed. And so we don't want to see that happening to our people.
Yeah, and I don't know the specifics of that situation, but I don't know if they tried to, do a process or whatever. But that's the dangerous side of buying stuff from people who haven't done anything. And so again, it goes back to due diligence. You need to vet these people too. You need to don't be afraid to ask for receipts. Like I know being somebody who like sell products and stuff like that. I used to, get offended when somebody asked me like, how do you know this works and stuff like that? But it's like, I have to step back and it's like, okay, these people are trying to find out if I'm legitimate. I can't be mad at them. Like it's totally fine for somebody to, want the product to be, as good as advertised. And so again, you always have to do your due diligence on people. Don't be afraid. Don't even be intimidated, to ask people, ask around, just like at job applications and stuff like that. They ask for references and stuff. Jobs ask for references. Like, do your due diligence on people. See if they match up. If they have Instagrams and stuff like that, go look at their history. See if they've been teaching this stuff. And like, if they if you can see on their page that, they're just posting random stuff, and then all of a sudden, they just start selling something, it's like that's a red flag right there. So, always do your due diligence. You just don't blindly trust anybody, no matter how many followers somebody may have. Like I always say, this is why I even offer free ebooks, before you buy the step-by-step process, because I want to teach you the overall, the ins and outs. And I want to, I have a free ebook called Dispelling the Myth About Adverse Possession. And so it's like 5, main points that people, they come across when they research adverse possession. And it's really just me just breaking down everything that I already did already. But it's like dispelling the main narratives that's surrounding adverse possession and the negative stigma. And so that's why I offer that stuff for free, because like you need to learn, this is the overall process. And if you want more, okay, you can pay me $57 for that. And so that's how I do things.
Mm-hmm. And that's fair. I mean, they get a sample, a preview of it, and if they like what they see, then they go the next step, and that's fair. Let me see. Yeah, people up here. I'm trying to look, see if there's anything. Oh, you said this, but let me just put this up. Maybe you can just repeat it. Oh, where'd they go? Okay. Oh, here we go. The question was, how do you find these properties? You mentioned there's a way of looking in your local tax liens, or
like I always tell people, like it's very cliched and very basic, but the best way is always going to be, groundwork. Driving for dollars is a term used in real estate, where you just get in your car and you just drive around. And so that's literally, I find so many, and my wife is actually the ones, she's like my little secret partner. Like we didn't even know we had this little partnership, but she's always been the one to find most of these properties. So the property that I'm doing for my parents right now, she's the one who found that one. I found the one that I'm currently living in, but it's like, you just got to go look. That's way number one. But a lot of people, they want to be online researchers. And so one of the best ways, like I said and mentioned earlier, you have to go look at some counties have a tax delinquent list, some don't. Some have it around tax auction time, some have it up all year. So it just literally depends on where you at and how they do things, because a lot of places are different. So that's the best ways I've personally been able to find properties.
So once you find a property and begin the process and do all of the average, putting the legal notices in and so forth, and then you're comfortably in the property and so forth, are you then paying the taxes on the property, or are you going to start paying them after it's now you mentioned a quiet title?
Okay. So, again, that's one of those things that depends on your jurisdiction. Some don't even sell your property for delinquent taxes. Again, you got to look at your jurisdiction. I can't speak for everything. And so, hold on, my camera's moving by. So, what was the question again? Sorry.
Whether or not when you would have to start, paying the or getting on the tax roll with the property.
Okay. So, it literally depends. So for me, I claimed it at year 2 of it being delinquent. So I started paying on it as soon as possible. So that way, I'm not faced with the threat of tax delinquency and stuff like that. So I just, get the taxes out the way and, just keep up with it. So because it's a lot. Go ahead.
You looked at property A and said property A owes 2,000 notes in taxes, and you paid the taxes as who? I mean, who were you to pay the taxes when your name or nothing was on there that connected you to the property? And what is that a receipt for you as far as when you say you had an active interest in how's that work?
That's another great question, because that's another one of those things that pertains to on a jurisdiction basis. So for me, in Oklahoma period, I looked at every county. Anyone can pay the taxes. So like for me, I did my adverse possession under a trust name. I didn't do anything under my personal name. And so that's another thing as well. You don't have to do it under your personal name. You can do it under a business. You can do it under trust. I learned that from, corpus juris secundum. But as far as like, like I said earlier, it depends on what your state statute says as far as taxes goes. I know, for the most part, I've only ran into about 2 people that says you have to be like an heir or somebody related to pay the taxes.
So if you're not an heir or somebody related, but yet you want to claim this property, do you just you're just in it until such time as
like for me,
no,
like that's a great question because it's a legit question. And so like for me, like I'm one of the ones that's just like, I'm going to find a way, like, because it doesn't make sense to have the laws of adverse possession on the books. And when I'm doing it, there's a roadblock. And so for me, I feel like, I can be able to, I should be able to negotiate something because I'm technically doing something legally by the book and I can prove it. And you have this roadblock that says, I can't do it. All right, well, we're going to have to go to court and figure this out because your policy doesn't beat the law on this issue. And so my thing is a lot of people, don't want to go to the courtroom and fight. This is why I said you have to be ready for resistance and you have to be ready to go enforce it if need be.
Okay. My wheels are just spinning because I'm trying to cipher like questions out of the ethers that people might have in their, in their minds that, because it just doesn't. Suppose not only are there delinquent taxes on a property that you're interested in, but there's so-called unpaid mortgage, and that there is a bank that has a claim on that property because it has, it's in the so-called default. Can one find that out, and then should they avoid that kind of property?
Yeah. So this is where, when I said earlier, I learned what not to do from these stories. I don't touch anything that's bank owned, quote unquote, bank owned. We know banks can own property. We know that argument, but are you ready to go to court to enforce anything? If you are you ready to go to battle to enforce that? And then if you are, then, that's on you. So that's my answer to that. I teach people, like me personally, I teach people not to go at the bank on anything. Because from all the stories that have gone wrong, they're dealing with bank-owned property.
Well, they give away properties too, because when I was housing director, they have a program called, and you probably heard of it, REO, the REO program, and that's where banks would give the properties in their inventory to a municipality or county, city, state, who would have then have it redeveloped, and it would be a write-off, I'm assuming, for them. But these were bank-owned properties because it was an REO program. But so people wouldn't know that, and would they find that on that tax on the record? I mean, how would one find out whether or not it's an REO or bank-owned property?
You just pretty much have to look at the legal owner of that property. Go to your county assessor website, your county clerk's website, and just find out the information on that. More than like, a lot of times, these clerks, they don't know what's going on, so they're just there to do a job. So you can get information; it's public information. And so, as far as finding things with like that, I personally haven't come across that issue, but if I were to come across that issue, like I said, if I found out that it was part of that situation, I would stay away from it. Because another thing, when you read corpus juris secundum on adverse possession, you can't claim county owned property or municipality owned property. They call it public property.
So hence land. So say it's land. No structure on the land.
Empty lots.
Can one pitch a tent, put their trailer on the land, and say,
"Yep." So yeah. So I've had a lady, she adverse possession in Arizona, and she probably for 3 to 4 years. So she me because of my group on Facebook, and so she reached out to me and adversely possessing this property for 3 to 4 years. I forget the year. and she wanted to ask how I do a quiet title suit because she had an investor who wanted to, pay her $400K for the property, for the lot. And so they needed clear title. And so she needed to learn how to do the quiet title thing. And so, you can do empty lots like that. And this, learning all this stuff, once again, I'm thinking real estate legitimacy, I'm thinking strategies and stuff like that. And so it's not just something that, people want to just do to get a house and a home, stuff like that. You can actually make this, real estate investment strategy. And this is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Again, if everything's done right.
Here's a question here. I'm going to put this up here. If one is an heir and the county is preparing for an auction spring 2025 due to delinquent taxes, can that one own it wholly if others don't want it?
Can that one own it? Who? Like the heir?
Like the heir, say they're a group of heirs. Nobody,
Mhm.
the group of heirs, only one out of the group wants it, but it's due to be auctioned because of
So what that heir will have to do, I don't know if the property's been through probate. So that's another thing. If the property's been through probate, you can prove your heirship status, and then you can go take over a home, get it off the tax delinquent list, pay the taxes, and then you can own it if you're an heir.
Okay.
And a lot of this stuff, it goes back to my thing is like why I'm so feisty about it and stuff like that, because the state does this all the time with different things and they just call it something different, or they call it cheatment. And so, I don't know if you probably have you driven on the highway and you've seen cars on the side with the orange or yellow sticker on the back?
I mean, because
Like
they
abandoned,
were,
like
yeah.
Yeah, so so that's just a notice saying like, you've been here too long on this certain date. If you don't have it picked up by the certain date, we're going to tow it. And those eventually get sold over time. So I mean, for me, like adverse possession is no different with property and houses, because like you're giving notice, right? And so if you don't claim this, if you don't rebut my notice in 15 years, well, I'm going to take ownership of the property. It really is that simple. And then, in the law books, they call it finders keepers. That's an ancient principle of law.
Okay. Let me bring this one up.
How to bring about after incorrect judgment. I can't answer that one. I will have to, for me, no, for then. That's what non pro tunc means.
Yeah.
How to bring about well, you have to prove it and then, do something to set aside the judgment. But again, everything has to be done. You have to prove everything. You have to prove why it's an incorrect judgment.
Well, I know a situation where a sister's property was stolen, if you will, that way, sold to someone else, and she has been fighting it. She fought it, and then the court ruled in her favor years after these other people have the property, but they're leaving it up to her to get the property back. Now, if you took it, shouldn't they took it? Shouldn't they also be, responsible for making her
helping
whole?
get it back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
They put it in writing that you were right.
Yeah. So like and this is something that I learned about going through the court system. A lot of times, if you don't say what you want specifically, they're only going to rule like generally or something like that. So you have to, if on your order sheet, I don't know what she did. It was like, you have to be like, I want the sheriff to escort me to, get them off the property and stuff like that. If she has the proof already, I would kind of suggest her to go back and, get an order to help her to enforce it.
And whoever is in it apparently obtained it legally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But they have so whoever they obtain it from, they have the right to go back and sue them.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So okay. I want to switch gears a little bit. because you got a
Okay,
couple
cool.
of other books.
Yeah.
Um, you also have Not Born. It's interesting. Not Born in Sin / SSN.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. All
this
right.
is it.
And
Not born sin. A
what's that?
comprehensive manual on how to have your child delivered at a hospital without getting a social security number or a birth certificate, and why. And so, this is a process that, Truth is actually the one who put me onto this process and helped me with this, as far as like having your child delivered at a hospital the way you want it. And so this is why I wrote that book, because a lot of people, me and Truth did a live together going over this issue, and it kind of blew up. And so over time, put things to paper and stuff like that, put pen to paper, and I came up with, I just put the process in the book. And so
Now, is
really,
that a general process? Because I know Truth has done another book that deals with getting the V's for your children not getting the exemptions, and he's done it on a state to state basis. And so is this done overall general, or is it state
this is
specific?
general. This is general, but it's not just about this process. So it's also about, how the state acts as a parents and locals parentis and stuff like that. It's teaching parents the fundamentals of this system, and the dark side, quote unquote, to speak about the birth certificate and social security number, if you don't know how to control it, as some people would say, or take ownership of it, whatever you believe in. My thing is, like, me personally, because I know there's so many narratives, and so many people say, well, why would you get rid of the social security number if you can just control it and stuff like that? Not everybody's the same. Some people just don't want to deal with it at all. Another thing I say to people, okay, let's say you start off without a social security number, you learn all this information, and you feel comfortable, you teaching your child that they're not the all caps name and stuff like that, and you want to get it for whatever reason, go ahead and do it that way. But for me personally, I didn't want my children even associated with it from the get-go. And for me, it's about, it's kind of puts an onus on me to teach them, who they are, and to not be dependent upon this welfare state, because the welfare state has put their hand in everything, the administrative state, whatever you want to call it. That's why I put forbidden civics, that title of that. But as far as like, not having your child, have a social security number and stuff like that, another thing is you have to learn how to enforce it, because they're out of, two of my children, two of the three, two of them, I didn't have any problems. The third one, my son that was born last year, Child Protective Services tried to get involved. But, I know how to deal with them. And so there's different things that you can do as far as like religious exemptions. I put that in this book and where to find it. Each state outside of, I think it's Nebraska and North Dakota, one of those two states, they all have a program to where you can, you have to ask for it. You have to bring up the issue, because they're not going to tell you that you don't have to have your child, the foot prick and stuff like that. You don't have to go through any of these tests. And you can also, submit an affidavit. I put the compliance officers, which is the legal department, on notice. I put the administrators on notice. I put the doctors on notice. This is like at the checkups. I put on my affidavits. I hand them in personally to the doctor. I tell him to, give it to this so-and-so, and then I even mail it in. And so I'm putting all these people on notice. That's that, putting everything on legal record. And then there's the what's it called? The birth plan. You can, you can have everything how you want it to be. So for my children, right, the placenta was not allowed to leave my site. And so all of this, everything, this is why I tell people, if you, man and woman, you're together, the man has to be the one taking care of all this, so the woman can focus on strictly what she needs to focus. And so, like, I tell people, get these little stamps, all rights reserved stamps, because they have you sign everything, or have you sign paperwork. So if you're signing anything, you're reserving your rights. Just based off of me doing that, like, I see how people switched up, and we got, great service after that, just reserving our rights on the piece of paper. But, you want to have the man do this. So, because we acting as a protector, and, the wife can focus on what she needs to because she's in pain. And like moments after, called the golden hour. Like I have that in the book. It's like moments after the, child is delivered and stuff like that. The golden hour is the first couple hours, where, the bonding time happened and stuff like that. And that's when they like to, come in with like, oh, would you like to sign this? And, a lot of people, they're emotionally involved in their children and stuff like that. And so they're being, tricked into like signing stuff in that hour because they're just ready to get back to their child and like, okay, let me sign this real quick and blah, blah, blah. And so the purpose of this book is to teach people about the tactics that these hospitals use. And, it goes further into like what the social security number is, if you don't know like what it's about and stuff like that. And, talking about suretyship and, not claiming that all caps name as you and, distancing yourself from it. So that's what that book is about in that process.
Okay. So is that also available at Amazon, or is that?
Yeah, so with this, I have the, hard copy on Amazon, but the digital copy, comes with the actual templates and stuff as far as like, because we do private birth records. So I do private birth records, and there's the affidavits, and then there's the newspaper templates. Because again, I do everything through newspaper as well. Because if you notice, they do newspaper announcements as well, or at least they used to.
They used to.
They used to
anymore. Yeah.
So that's something, that's why I always tell people, always go through, and I go through the legal department. I don't do anything general because I need that affidavit of publication because that's proof. And, every state has a statute is like, if you put something in the legal newspaper, it's admissible into evidence as far as like when you get the affidavit of publication. So that's admissible into evidence in case you need it. There's more backup.
Does it matter where you say you're in New Jersey and the newspaper, the legal newspaper is in, Utah? Can you put it in the Utah paper and it still be, or does it have to be in a legal notice in New Jersey?
Well, I would think it has to be like in your New Jersey, in your in your locale. But yeah, I would say, and like some counties may not have a legal newspaper, and so you just want, again, this is an additional step that I like to take, and so it's not something you have to do, but it's like, for your legal protection, and you always want to have stuff on the record and proof. That's something that I always suggest people to do.
Now I know that enforcetheconstitution.org does do legal notices online for those that are doing their notices and so forth, and then provides an app, and we'll run it for however many weeks it needs to, and then we'll provide an affidavit of publication. Would that suffice? Since we more?
Oh, yeah.
So enforcetheconstitution.org does have that.
Yeah, that's public. Yeah, that's public record, and I that's definitely something that I would suggest everybody do. Like, right. I didn't know they did that, because that's another layer. This is your own people now, and so it was like, you don't have to do it through county stuff like that.
Yeah, I just said that. So let me see. Your other book is How Not to Be Emmed by the
how police get away with unaliving people.
How to get away with unaliving people. Where did that come from?
So,
I mean,
all the stories that we hear all the time since forever ago. And so one of the things that, I caught wind of, like, I would say around 2020, was this qualified immunity thing. I've always heard it from here and there whenever these, police brutality acts, or police terrorism, as we should call it, all this stuff comes around. Like, one thing that always popped up was qualified immunity. And so for me, 2020, I finally decided, okay, what is this qualified immunity? Why so many people talk about it, whenever this situation happens? So, I went into research mode, and, I started reading case law about it. And so pretty much, like, what qualified immunity does, it allows police to, legally, not just what the title said, but it's like they can sidestep, punishment. So they can, they could do anything with impunity based off this judicial made doctrine called, qualified immunity. And so it stems from Title 42, Section 1983. And so Title 2, Section 1490, Title 42, Section 1983 is what the majority of these people do their civil actions on. And so when you do the research behind that, that comes from 1871, an Enforcement Act or the Ku Klux Klan Act and stuff like that. All that is all centered around the 14th Amendment. So all my books there's something attached to the 14th Amendment, because that's, 1871, that's when they created, the United States Corporation. The 14th Amendment created the United States person or the United States citizen. And that, it just formed a platform to where, they just put everybody in a corporate citizenship. And so how qualified immunity ties into that is with if you use Section 18, well, is it 1983, 42 USC Section 1983, you're pretty much admitting that you are a United States citizen, because it's a privilege and benefit for federal citizens only. And so is the catch-22 there? Were you about to ask something?
Yeah, when you say privilege, a benefit for federal citizens only, to not be unalived by them, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, and so this is why Noble Drew Ali said the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment is not necessary for our salvation, because a lot of us, we get caught up in the emotional rhetoric that surrounds that period of time of Reconstruction. So a lot of us, there's this post going around talking about the Republican Party was founded in 1850 something, by radical Republicans to stop slavery. And so, but it was a Trojan horse. And so they used the so-called black people there, by freeing them and stuff like that, to ultimately usurp, state sovereignty. And so that's the sovereignty of the people. And so that's the issue that a lot of people don't know about, Section 1983. So whenever you're using that as a defense, they can go this way or they can go that way. It's solely up to their discretion. And so that's why a lot of police, they get to claim this qualified immunity defense, because, the Supreme Court created this doctrine out of nowhere. And so they just allow, police to get away with doing what they do just based off nothing. It's not supported by history. And even in the early history of the United States, there was no immunity for public servants whenever they did something and harmed the constitutionally protected liberties of the people. There was no immunity for that, because you already had to know what you had to know the law. And so that's one of the questions that I ask the people is how can you be a quote unquote law enforcer if you don't know the law? And then on top of that, how can you get away with, violating somebody's protected rights if by saying that you were ignorant to the fact that what you were doing, you didn't know that it violated their rights? And that's what qualified immunity lets them do. It lets them be ignorant of the law.
So right would be, in that case, life, the right to life,
liberty, property. Yeah.
Pursuit of happiness, or whatever it says. So if you take away any of those things, then you are denying right, unless you're saying that you're not a federal citizen. Is that, am I correct?
It's very complicated. And then, again, this is for me, this is why nationalization is so important, because it's we can't keep on one hand, saying they're illegitimate, but on the other hand, we have to, depend on this illegitimate person, quote unquote person. So it's a catch-22. And so the thing is, we got to completely separate ourselves from that, or get it repealed, because that's going back to the 14th Amendment, even though that wasn't lawfully ratified and stuff like that. We have to, more and more people have to be the ones to press the issue. The people have to be the one to press the issue to not get in this, because we have to do away with the 14th Amendment, because that's the foundation for the de facto platform.
Well, if it's never been ratified, I get why it's even still a factor. Why?
But it's still a factor because if you look at Title 42, well, not just with that, but if you look at Title 42, it's what's called non-positive law, and non-positive law just simply means prima facie evidence, and so it's basically based off of presumption. And so if you look at the definition of facto, right, it will say something along. And I'm paraphrasing. If even though they're de facto, okay. Oh, what's the last part you heard?
I don't know because you break it up.
So okay, sorry. I don't know what's going on, but let me.
They probably messing with it.
Yeah. Let me get the. So go to de facto real quick. I'm gonna.
Black's Law.
Black's Law, fourth edition. Yeah. I just got to read it real quick. And this is under government. A B C D E F G. So on the government de facto, the part that I was saying is a government deemed unlawful or deemed wrongful or unjust, which, and this is the part I was talking about, nevertheless receives presently habitual obedience from the bulk of the community. And so that's where we're at today. Even though a lot of people know, too many people don't know that it was never constitutionally ratified. And so it's just in the presumption right now. And so if you don't rebut presumptions, what's going to happen? It stands as law until you rebut it. And so that's why I said more and more people need to be rebutting this on a national scale.
Wow. So enforcing the Constitution would also include negating or having stricken from the Constitution the 14th Amendment. So maybe nobody or not enough.
Well, if you enforce the Constitution, you bring up the I think it's the Fifth Amendment or Article 5, and that's the procedures on how to get an amendment properly ratified. And so it's Article 5 of the Constitution. And so we got to enforce that. And there's just so much history around that period of Reconstruction, like the nuances of it. Like one of my future books is going to be about strictly the 14th Amendment. And I'm going to go even deeper into already what I do now, because I'm going to, Forbidden Civics is a big book. So it's going to be bigger than that, because I have all these speeches and debates on the enforcement of the 14th Amendment. And so that's probably about 200 pages all in itself, because there's a whole bunch of senators debating on this topic of the 14th Amendment. And in there's a lot of them that's speaking on the fact that, it was unconstitutional and it does usurp the sovereignty of the people. And so they're openly saying that. But, this is where I say, if the people don't know this stuff, everything goes back to presumptions. And so again, like Noble Drew Ali said, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of our people. But a lot of our people depend on that. The 13th Amendment, as far as slavery being abolished, 14th Amendment, quote unquote, gave Negro citizenship. And then the 15th Amendment, the right to vote stuff. And so we didn't need any of that if we were ourselves. And so you can't say that you're free based on the whim of somebody else. That's not real freedom. You have to be the one to free yourself. And that's the thing. That's the presumption that we're all under today. Like we all say that we're free because of the 13th Amendment. Well, how are you free based on somebody else writing it on a piece of paper? That means you saying you're free based off of that puts you into subjection. That's you saying that I'm only free based on because some so-and-so said I'm free, not because of your own will.
I just recently, well, not just recently, but how we learned they're doing a lot of the celebrations every year now, the Juneteenth. And truth be told, that's that in and of itself is, very much up for debate as to whether or not, that was a real fact. But it's just always something to, give us. Oh,
Hmm.
look, we gave you June. You gave you June. Was it 19th off or something? They're giving people the
Hmm.
holiday as a holiday, and it's not even real. It's not our stuff, and we get
Yeah,
folks get off on those things. Well, it must be true because they made a holiday. Well,
exactly. It's silly.
it is just that. So let's go back to let's see. Did we talk about all your books or?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we didn't really talk about forbidden civics, but we don't
Yeah.
really need to talk about that because
That well, see, you have a lot of in that one. I noticed you have was it the war man? Is it the War
yeah. So
Department?
TM 2000-25.
What's the significance of that?
Well, that's probably the best civics manual that was ever, written as far as like pure basic civics and how things are supposed to be ran. Because that one is it gives a definition of what a democracy is versus what a
Mhm.
republic form of government is. And so, even in this book, like I read a lot from the congressional records, right? And so at the
Mhm.
end, I put in a lot of these, this stuff right here. It's hard to see right now. My camera's moving
Yeah.
again, but it's hard to see on camera and stuff like that. But these are actual debates, and they debated. They in some of these debates they brought up the fact that that manual was only around for 5 years, and they talked about some of the reasons why, because it was teaching true civics, and so it didn't fall in line. It didn't fall in line with the fact that they're teaching the military people this, and so now they have proper civics, and so that's just going to leak over to the family and stuff like that. But the fact, hold on, let me move this again. The fact that they brought that stuff up in the article, they was talking about how the quote unquote liberals, they like to hijack words. That's one of the ones I put in there, and the
Mhm.
word democracy was hijacked, and it kept being implemented over and over until now you have people today saying that we have a democracy. You can listen to Kamala Harris and all these other politicians talking about democracy, democracy, and they're saying it more and more blatantly and openly now because that's majority of the people believe democracy in a republic is the same thing. And it's a
Well, we
tactic they
know.
like to use it. Go ahead.
Well, in the true sense, we know that it's one. Was it one bird, two wings? But I mean, in the de
Hmm.
facto sense, in the true sense,
Yeah.
then we the republic form of government has something to do with being a republican,
Hmm.
and that's
Exactly.
where people get
Yeah.
confused. But I'm reading here in the War Man, the War Department of TM 2025, when it talks about, because of the issue we're going through now, immigration and naturalization. I think that's very,
Hmm.
very interesting because it talks about under the Constitution what Congress is given power is given the power over both immigration and naturalization, and then it talks about under the Immigration Act, the following classes of persons are excluded from entering the United States:
Hmm.
idiots, how do you determine? Insane, epileptics, people with epilepsy. I mean, I guess you already
Hmm.
this is what I'm reading, what it says in your book.
Yeah.
Paupers and persons likely become a public charge. What are these thousands of dollars these people are getting? Okay. Professional beggars.
Hmm.
Persons suffering from tuberculosis or other dangerous or loathsome contagious persons physically or mentally so defective as to be unable to make it a living. Persons convicted of a crime or misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, polygamists. I mean, a lot of these things, like the people that are coming in now, they're saying, oh, they're murderers, rapists,
Exactly.
convicts, anarchists. They're bringing them in because they're trying to create anarchy.
Now,
Women or girls imported for immoral purposes and persons aiding in their importation. Wow. Contract laborers. I think that's why they're bringing all these people in. They should children under 16 years of age, unaccompanied by their parents. With certain exceptions, no alien ineligible to citizenship is admissible to the United States. Well, there you go. That right
now,
there alone.
exactly. Now you see why it's called forbidden civics, because it's up to because if the people knew that, and again, everything for me goes back to the people and the people enforcing the Constitution.
Hmm.
Everything goes back to that because more and more people need to be educated, but they only ran this manual for 5 years for a reason, and so they
What was
probably,
it in? Was it in the year 2000
I
or
think it
was it early?
was, I think they said 1928
Oh,
to
it was
19.
way, way earlier than
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So it was around that time, I believe, 1928 to 1933.
So this is what
So
the
somewhere around there.
soldiers, with the uniform soldiers or so forth, got this. They had to study this. They got a manual with this stuff in it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was also circulated among the people. So it wasn't like, yeah, it's for the military, but somehow it got circulated, around to where
Hmm.
the quote unquote common people got it.
Hmm. Right. Here's an interesting thing because we talked about this. Um, Here's number 28 to something.
Hmm.
Guarantees as to person and property. That's an interesting
Hmm.
one. It says the United States is composed of 48 sovereign states, each state having its individual constitution and laws, yet no state may discriminate against the rights and privileges of the citizen of any other state as to person or property. Among these guarantees are opportunity for education and individual improvement, unrestricted possession of property, joint rights
Hmm.
to interstate commerce, communication, transportation, public utilities, freedom of residence, choice of occupation, care, protection on the high seas or abroad through passport privileges and international law. Well, I can see there's direct violations to that.
Exactly,
Some of
and
these
that's
things
that's
here.
everything centers around the 14th Amendment and what's called centralization. Like in the same manual, they says threats. I will have to pull it up, but it says the threats to a representative government. First one says centralization, and all centralization just means power in one system or one person, and so that's what the 14th Amendment did. It gave all the power to the Congress, and the quote unquote radical Republicans, and so they were the ones that was in control of the Congress because they unconstitutionally made it to where the Southern representatives didn't have any quorum, or they couldn't go to the meetings and debates, and so they unconstitutionally um, stripped them of their power, and so now the Southern states didn't have any representation. And so this is what the enforcement of the 14th Amendment was about. Because when in the Enforcement Act, which was passed in 1871, they set up military districts in the southern states, and the conditions for them to have their representation back, they had to ratify the 14th Amendment. So that's coercion right there, under military threat and duress. And so that's the literal definition of de facto right there, and what they did as far as coercing and threatening the southern states in order to have representation again, or to get it back into the union. You have to ratify the 14th Amendment. But the 14th
But they
Amendment,
didn't.
yeah, well, yeah, well, over time, under threats and coercion, they had to submit to it. But if anything, if it's passed under those auspices, then guess what? It's null and void from the get go.
But nobody's enforcing the
Exactly.
Constitution.
Exactly.
Wow, that's deep. And when you don't know, you don't know. And folks, not that it hasn't been said, and not that it's not being said, but
Hmm.
folks have been so programmed into this, good guy, bad guy, good Democrats, bad Republicans. They,
Exactly.
they when they're playing this game, really, because it's good and bad on
Hmm.
both sides,
Yeah.
and but we know from the standpoint of what his story tells us that they were
Hmm.
that the ones that we're deeming or that's being vilified were actually the ones that were more supportive of us, being who we're supposed to be, and we were in
Hmm.
office and all those different things. And then there was an overthrow, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden this demon crassy
Hmm.
becomes the good guys, when all of a sudden it's like they threw a rock and hit their hand.
Exactly. And so, like, something that I've been hearing lately, Trump talking about is quote unquote enemy within, and not to justify or like condone Trump or support him, but Trump is like Noble Drew Ali to us for the quote unquote European, because he wants to nationalize stuff. He wants to bring businesses back into the United States of America. He wants to get stuff out of China. So this is why the quote unquote deep state is after him, because he's standing in the way of, just them taking over completely. Because, even though, like I said, this is not to, speak highly of Trump or anything, because I don't get into all that crap. But it's like just hearing, even he attacked the 14th Amendment. And again, that's their platform. That's their foundation of their democracy platform, is the 14th Amendment. So he's trying to do away with birthright citizenship, to stop the immigration problem. But that's where Moors come in, is like, well, if they stop birthright citizenship, that's like shooting themselves in the foot, because they only claim to be American just by being here. And if you know the true history about who the true Americans are, well, that's where we're supposed to stand up and take our place.
Copper colored.
And that's where we're supposed to stand up and take our place. But, we're too distracted on Diddy and everybody else's personal business.
Absolutely. And a lot of things are going on. And, October is not over yet. They're talking about the October surprises, and, they got people vibrating at such a low rate, a low energy rate, that it can't do anything but attract some catastrophic stuff. I mean, it could have been, not that there was no human hand in what went through in Florida and North Carolina and places like that, but the energy of the people, the mindset of the people, the consciousness of the people, all factors in. You can, man plans, but it doesn't mean that it goes through if the energy, if the spiritual side of us works together to, avert, if you will, the plans of man. And that's and somebody said it in the chat, we can't get anything done because we can't get along. We can't agree to disagree and say on the things we do agree on, we're going to show up as a united front. We might fight in the boardroom, in the back room, but when we come out front to the public, we better be united, because we need to make some things happen, or else there will be no us.
That's what the who's do.
I know. Yeah. Rhymes with who's. Yeah. The who's.
Exactly.
But you have your scholarship, again, for those who weren't here at the outset. And I don't know how many likes we have, but I don't think we have enough likes. Definitely have not enough shares, but I know by tomorrow, 5,000 folks will be looked at it.
Yeah.
But you need to be sharing this. You need to be letting folks know, because this conversation is needed. These types of conversations, scholarly conversations, are needed, and reference-based conversations are needed, so that folk can go back and see for themselves what's been said, and what's fact and what's fiction, so to speak. I mean, you can't, where the receipts at. And so you went in, and I just think it's great you put the manual in here and said this was it was the greatest book. So you didn't have to write that part.
It's the greatest civics book like I've personally ever came across. Because like I said, that's the reason. Again, the name is Forbidden Civics for a reason, because everything in that manual is how things supposed to be operated. And it gives you the warning of how, if they start doing this, the propaganda, it talks about propaganda in there. It talks about, how they're trying to take religion away. They talk about, abolition, destroying the family. They talk about everything that it takes to destroy a Republican form of government in this manual. And so that's why it's so powerful, because, and this is why I say it's the most powerful and the best civics manual, because I haven't found anything better as far as giving the principles of what good government's supposed to be. And again, I'm very heavy on principles, because if it aligns with the principles of Proverbs, for me, it's natural law. It's going to align with natural law and reasoning. And so this is going to help people get, learn their power and, go back. So now, the saying is knowing is half the battle. So if you know the information, now it's up to you to start implementing, start coming together, start unifying and putting in all these things. One of the most perfect examples of how I feel like the Moorish, Moorish Scientific of America should be is like the Amish. They have their own communities. They're very private for the most part, and then they're protected under their religion. And so this is all the things Noble Drew Ali set up. If you look at the back of the one-on-ones, like he told you like where our authority, where the Moorish Science Temple of Authority comes from. And so he's, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a religious institute, mean a religious society. But our people have been so torn up, abusing each other and stuff like that. And then we go talk about what the quote unquote white man is doing this day, when it's like, okay, he's doing what he's doing because we're allowing it, and we're doing shit. Stop, my bad. We're doing stuff to ourselves that compounds the problems.
Right. Yeah, but there's a lot of people. Like I said, I'm not even. And somebody might get mad at me for saying it, but like there's some modern European sons as we do and daughters who are just as much realizing that they've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and just the wool pulled over their eyes, just like everybody else, and they don't like the fact that we've all been lied to. You tell, like I said, I looked at the I think they're called the Yarboroughs, Yarbros, and they did a thing on the Black codes. I talked about it on Friday. It's a YouTube video out of the Black codes, and excellent. In 29 minutes, they gave such a great overview of where we were and how we got to where we are. They even talked about what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. I have a book back here that my sister Cynthia turned me on to called Wilmington's Lie. When they, we always focus on
Tulsa,
what happened in Tulsa, but
that's where
that was that's where you are. Yeah. But that's not the only place that they did that too. And Wilmington, North Carolina was a very bustling, prominent, indigenous community with people that lived very prosperous, and the ones that did not have nots decided that they was tired of not having, and so they destroyed what people had built instead of being cooperative. But the fact of the matter is, at one point, us and them worked together. As they were indentured, we were working in the fields. A lot of times it was the land that we owned that had been usurped by the encroachment of these Europeans coming in, but that the original slaves we know were Slavics, and they were working side by side, and they were like, wait a minute, they're coming up against us. They would when those on black and white together, and they said, look, we need to tell these we need to make them different. We're gonna call them white people, and we're gonna tell them that white people are superior to these Negroes, and that's how they decided to start making the dividing, and
and that's exactly what race is to me. So the Willie Lynch letter, right? How they pitch the so-called light-skinned black person against darker skin and stuff like that. That's all race is today. They just doing it on a bigger scale. So you can say, with the so-called black people, fighting against their own, that's the microcosm of the macrocosm as far as like the race paradigm in itself. And so just to keep the people, just to keep the people fighting against each other, while not realizing that they're all subjected under the same thing in the first place.
I saw a movie yesterday. It was an animated movie, and there was absolutely no talking in it. It's called Flow. And like the water flows, and what it based, and y'all look for it especially if you got one of those fire sticks where you get the movies. It's called Flow. And the movie hit me just like when I watched The Dark Crystal. That was Muppets, at least they talk, but this is no talking, but it's so profound. Flow is about the end of the world coming and everything being destroyed by water, and the only thing that was surviving was different animals. And they ended up on an abandoned little boat together, like a hedgehog, a cat named Cat, and I have a cat named Cat. They call it the cat. The cat looked like my cat. A bird. It was like all kinds of different little animals, and they had to end up realizing that they was in the same boat, in the same predicament, and initially it was adversarial, it was apprehension, but it was only one of each animal in that had survived. It wasn't every animal, but the ones that were in this little boat, they were all different. None of them saw another one that looked like them, and they
Hmm.
had to learn how to work together.
Yeah.
And I watched this whole movie with no words. Just you had to look
Yeah.
at it because you had to see the interaction. And I thought about us. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
got to get in the flow. We gotta put
Exactly.
aside petty differences and who you think is getting more accolades or making more fiat or getting more recognition than you, and say what is the common good that we need to be working towards. We
Hmm.
don't need, fiat if you already got food. If you got food, clothing, shelter, they made us, desire these things. They turned us into, with
Hmm.
consumers when we used to be producers. And it's
Exactly.
time for us to get back into I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. So then we put all of our what we can do together and make sure everybody's taking care of people. I know they talk about, well, that's communist, and in a sense, community. I see
Yeah.
community different than communism. The
Yeah. And
the, the
when people,
yeah,
yeah, when people talk about communism and socialism and stuff like
so,
that, it's typically from a standpoint of like, how the quote unquote evil forces are trying to manipulate
right,
everything and to try to make everybody put everybody on equal condition, but not equal opportunity. Because communism, socialism is just equal condition. And this is what that thing Kamala keeps talking about, and she's hijacking the word equity, but it's like this is what they do. Like they keep saying the same things over and over, and they keep trying to tell people like, oh, everybody's on the equal condition and stuff like that. But it's like that's not what people want. People just want equal opportunity, and so that's the issue. Whenever when people need to talk about whenever they say communism or socialism, I feel like it needs to be qualified.
right, it does. And I want to call it more communalism,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
communism, because when you have a common union with folks, I mean, not everybody can live together, and I get it, because I like people. Sometimes I need to keep
Yeah.
my distance because I love people, but I don't love them like on top of me.
Exactly.
I can't do that. I'm not that type of, but I would see myself contributing to a communal outcome. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And my space is over here, and your space is
Yeah.
there. And in some cases, it might be 25 of you together, but that's your choice. But the bottom line is, we're not over here fighting with each other over the petty things that have been introduced into our society to do exactly what it's doing, to divide, like somebody
Hmm.
said, divide and conquer, because they've
Yep.
been doing a damn good job of that for such a long time, that it's time that we woke up and as they said, smelled the coffee, the roses, or realize, take back our power, take back, we say it as women, with the divine feminine, take back, but as a people,
Hmm.
we have no power. We have lost our power, and it's time to do it. And the way, how do you do it? By coming together.
Hmm.
You
No,
you
we
get
haven't
it.
lost our power. We just lost our consciousness of our power.
Well,
It's
maybe
still
because
there.
yeah, that's why, and I think that's why I call this reawakening minds, because
Hmm.
the the concept is that our minds were awakened,
Hmm.
and we kind of been lulled into another state. We're in this dream state. That's folks that, and I see a book over here got called Awakening from the Dream, David Wilcock. And we need to wake up out from this dream and get into reality and realize that we've let a lot of things go, by the wayside while we were in the dream state. It's time to wake up. It's time to
Hmm.
wake up. And when you wake up, you get up. And when you get up, you can go forth and do something. And we need to do that together. And like I said, I really appreciate, the efforts that you are putting forth to bring erudition, to not just our people, to people in general. Because anybody, like I said, there's somebody out there that don't look like that's putting our videos on their channel going, everybody
Oh
better
yeah.
hurry up. They saying,
Like my audience is very diverse. And it's like I grew
yeah,
up in like a very diverse. So like I haven't written one single book for Moors yet. I haven't written one yet. It's coming, But it's like,
Mhm.
as far as like this information enforce the
It's for
Constitution,
everybody.
it's for everybody. That's because it's
Whosoever
everybody's
will.
problems now. It's
Yeah.
everybody's problem.
And they're realizing it too, because like I said, if you look at that thing on the Black Codes, what the Yarboroughs did, they one day decided, look, we're gonna make white people, we're gonna make you white, and that was a class distinction that they created in order for the unity that used to exist between us and them to dissipate the little small, the power base, because there's never many of them. It's always a little bit of them ruling a whole lot of us. And how they do it, by the coercion, by the lies, by creating dissension and distrust amongst us. And they've been doing very well. And it's time for us, to turn that around and start to look at this thing from a standpoint of, if we're going to survive, we're going to have to do it together. We have to do it together. It's a united we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah, speaking of something, you made me think about something. Because like one thing that, that's really kind of personal, for me, as far as like sticking together and stuff like that, I want to say free my brother Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey and Lucha L, and any political prisoner out there, like, who's behind those walls and stuff like that. And so like that's real personal for me, because we need each other and stuff like that. He just had a son last year, and has a little girl, probably 3, 4 or something like that. And so my thing is, like, I want to support him while he's behind bars and stuff like that, and be able to take care of his children, because that's what we're supposed to do. And so, like, one of the things, I just on this live, just like, one of the things I want to offer to people who ever see this is like, I'll give you an ebook. You just got to donate something to his wife and his children. Like, you can reach out to me at Moorish Lighthouse and we'll set all that up. But just donate something to them and I'll shoot you over the ebook, my adverse possession ebook, or any of my books that you want as far as the ebook version.
What is is it a website that you have or something? Because I didn't.
Yeah. So as far as sorry, it's kind of.
What is your
the main way people can reach out to me is, like, you go to my Instagram, Moorish Lighthouse, and then my adverse possession website is www.adversepossessionblueprint.com, and that's pretty much the websites I have right now. I need to make an author one and stuff like that, but like I said, I'd never plan on being an author and all this stuff like that. But if people want to reach out to me. The best way to reach out to me is on my Instagram, Moorish Lighthouse.
Okay, the other one, but this was adversepossessionblueprint.com, right?
Yes. And like I said, if you want the ebook, like, just send a donation, like, reach out to me and I'll give you, Sister Jaleesa Juju, I'll send you her information. And then, because I don't want, you never know who's listening. And so I don't want to put, her PayPal up right here, right now. And so just reach out to me. Yeah.
Am I missing an S right there after?
Yeah. The second S, SSION.
That's what I thought. Let me fix that. I was like, it didn't look right.
But yeah, just reach out to me. Yeah, reach out to me on Instagram, and like, we can set something up.
Okay, let me. Oh, that's not. All right, let me. Oh, wait a minute. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Don't pay attention to that.
No, you good. Like, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm having a moment. Put another S in there. All right, there we go. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, it looks good.
And then, yeah, okay. All right, then. So let me fix this. And your IG is
Moorish Lighthouse.
Okay. IJ MORISH. Okay. Let me do this.
And why are you doing that? Like, because that's one thing, if you ever been locked up or something like that, like, you need support from the outside world, because when I was locked up, I had family thinking I was crazy and stuff like that. And people talk ill on you. It'd be the people around you that, be hurting you the most, or the ones that you feel like that need to be supporting you kind of abandon you sometimes. And so this is why, I felt it within myself to, trying to help his family out however I can, because, I'm my brother's keeper. And so, me and him got real close over the years and stuff like that. And so this is one of the things that's on my heart, to try to help him out and help his family out, because, I have children and stuff like that. And if I was behind those walls, like I would want somebody to try to do the same thing for me, just to even attempt it, it would mean a lot, because while you're in there, you're just worried about your family. Well, I won't say just worried about, but that's the first thing as a father. You're worried about your family and if they're taken care of and stuff like that. And so I want to ease his mental burden by helping out his family however I can, and getting other people to help out, spread the word.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show and for sharing. Thank you for all your hard work that you put into the books that you've published, and give you, wish you the best and energetic, I don't know, mental acuity to do the other, future books that you are planning to do. And I hope that folks will go out and purchase your books. I know Teach and Lady J, when they come, they teach, they recommend your book. So he teaches.
Shout out to them. I appreciate that.
Yeah. He's in the DMV area teaching when it comes to us on the fourth Friday. And that's how I learned about that book. I already had your other one. So shout out to them. And hey, listen, you can go to YouTube, Amazon, and you can also go to Brother Jahlael's website, or his IG is running under scrolling there. And as we leave, I just want to remind everybody that this coming Friday, the 25th, that we are having our let me take that down for just a minute so you can, well, I guess you can see it, that we're having our fourth Friday event at the House of Reawakening Minds. So we're gonna have yours too. Actually, I'm gonna be doing some scans. So we talk about the AO scan, and I'm trying to get everybody in every household to have an AO scan in their area. So I'll be doing some scans. It's the weirdest thing. I'm gonna bring you back on to figure out how to take this off. I'm having a brain lapse. But anyway, here we go back. I scanned myself today, and I did with something called an easy scan, and it gives you like tones that you need for that moment, like morning, midday, night. If you do it in the morning, you not only find out what, if you need to take certain supplements that you've entered in there. You might have supplements you take regularly, but some days you shouldn't take it. And a scan will tell you today you should, you should just take this, and you should take that much. But it also gives you colors, because there's color therapy, sound therapy, and energetic therapy that does it. And the colors that came up for me today were exactly what I have on: purple. And I mean, it was two shades of purple. And I actually I have purple, like purple, and these two shades of purple, but I already had it on. And it was like energetically, I had the right color on, for the day. And it's something about the colors, the sounds, and then knowing what's going on with. I found out what was imbalanced, what meridians were imbalanced, what chakras were imbalanced, and it's all about fixing our. There's ways to fix ourselves, and so I'll be doing some of that on Friday. So y'all who are coming, you get to experience that, and hopefully,
I'm gonna make it out there on one of these times. I gotta get out there, because I gotta see the whole East Coast. I got to visit Truth and his family and everybody else out there.
They came by about a week or two ago. They brought the whole crew over to my house about 2 weeks ago. Yep. 2 Fridays ago, as a matter of fact. It was good to see them. And like I said, they have, and I got to get the links so I can put it out for you, for the people, but they have for every state, the VAC laws and all that, and the paperwork that you need for the V exemptions. I'm calling them the exemptions. If you want to get that for yourself, for your job, for your children, for all that, they have it. You can get a PDF. I think they're like $9.95 for just the individual states. So as soon as I get that link.
Truth don't stop working, and he got a lot of stuff for the people. And that's one of the things I've been challenging him on, as far as like, you got to be a little bit more public and we got, myself included, like we got to get better at, these communications and all these
Right.
platforms that we have. But he's been doing a great job because he does a lot of behind the scenes work. And so,
Mm.
like, shout out to Truth and his family. And so that's another thing I want to shout out.
Oshun, yes, and all of the children.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bad. That's his book.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we are
Yeah.
not black. Spell misconception volume 1. And he's got, the one he did for the children. Is it my baby? My baby
Yeah. My
can
baby is a
read,
scholar.
or my baby is a scholar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's so, yeah. So there's other books and books so for you brothers with the
Mhm.
child support and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
It's this one right here. I
Yeah.
already got him. I got him on deck.
Okay. Okay. You got his stuff. All right. Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my
All right.
brother right there. He every time he get a chance, he gonna promote my stuff. And I told him I got you right back. So
All right, y'all. So listen, I look like somebody says Dr. G looked just like my mother, but if you two was her, you could see. Oh wow. Well, thank you. All right, all right, all right. I'll see what I can do. See if I can get Brother Kush back on. He's been a few years since he was on here. Got to reconnect. Anyway,
Who?
what's the YouTube channel? Whose YouTube channel? You don't have a YouTube channel, do you? Or
I
do
have a
you?
YouTube channel. All my
Oh, you
stuff
do?
is gonna be on. All my stuff is gonna be on the Moorish Lighthouse.
Okay, which is the IG.
Yeah,
Is
my
that your
IG,
IG page?
my TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Well, not Facebook. Facebook is just my name, but everything is going to be on
And
Moorish
so you
Lighthouse.
have a YouTube channel called Moore's Lighthouse.
Yes.
Okay, so all right, Moore's
Yeah.
Lighthouse. Yep. Okay, y'all. Okay. Well, we're out of here. Thank you so
All right.
much.
I appreciate you
Thank,
so much. Thank you for having me on.
thank you for coming. Appreciate you. All
All right. Have a good
right.
night.
Okay. You have an excellent night. All right.
Dr. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. G. Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Dr. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. G. Yeah, that's me.